few things with some CDC, and I'm going to tie a trailing shuck, some trailing shuck mayflies, and I'm going to show you how I make these shucks. Instead of just having loose fibers for a tail, I'm actually making a tube out of a piece of antron. So I'm just tying this hank of antron on here. Then I'm going to put a triple surgeon's knot with my thread on the end of this. You can't see what I'm doing, I guess. And what I've done is I've taken some 6X and I've tied a triple surgeon's knot on that. And then when I'm in a production mode, I'll just take these pieces of mono and just tighten them up. And I'll tighten them with I usually use a pair of pliers, but I forgot them, so. So I'll do, I'll do like 7 or 8 of these, but I'm not going to today. So what I have is I have a knot here that represents the end of the shuck. And this represents what I'm going to tie on my fly. So I'm just going to start with a size 16 hook, just a standard dry fly hook. On the River one day, and I started noticing these mayflies with this brown thing hanging off their rear end, and as it turns out, it was their trailing shuck. And I got a really good image of this fly, and the shuck was a tube. So I thought to myself, well, you know, instead of just a bunch of loose antron fibers for a trailing shuck, I'm going to make a tube. So I'm going to cut the back end off of here, make a tail. Any of you know what a Tupp's indispensable is? A dry fly? It's a traditional British pattern. And a Tupp is a ram, and a ram will, where he urinates, will color his scrotum hair pink. So they use the pink wool from the scrotum for the thorax, and then for the abdomen they use Pearsall's, well, they used primrose silk thread. So I'm going to use some primrose silk thread just over yellow thread, which I'm using 16-aught. In fly shops, you can buy a lot of different CDC colored in different colors, and most of it is duck. Okay, and duck CDC is not very long, and I happen to have quite a few sources for Canada Goose CDC, and these guys are much bigger. And they have some variation in color. Some are gray, some are lighter. So what I do is I sit down with my morning coffee in my easy chair with a roll of tape, and I will match pairs of goose feathers. With the concave points like this. So you match them up, and I tape them. So I'll do like 50 of them. So when I'm in the production mode, I can just grab my CDC and I don't have to continue picking through it. So I'm just going to take this and strip this stuff off. Can you see what I'm doing? And then I'm going to just preen this forward. I'm going to gauge it. And then I'm going to clip this and tie it on. Could have been a little longer, but I can do another one. So here's some Nature Spirit Pink Cahill extra fine wool, and I'll use that for the dubbing for the thorax. I'm just going to bring the wing forward and wrap the dubbing behind it to elevate the wing. Then if you want, you can take some of these fibers on either side and just pull them down. And you can make legs.
Fish it as a dry.
Pardon?
Fish it as a dry.
Fish it as a dry. And of course, CDC I don't dress. I don't dress it with anything. And then when it gets wet, you just put frog's fanny on it or something like that. And then it'll float like crazy.
I missed the shuck. You got something tight on the shuck?
I knotted it with 6X. So I have a bunch of these things already made.
Why do you do that?
Well, because I want a tube for a trailing shuck. I don't want a bunch of loose fibers. Because when a mayfly is emerging, he's emerging from its exoskeleton, which is a tube. And that's why I did it.
For the shape.
For the shape, to imitate a shuck. And it proved to me, I started doing this 2 years ago, and it proved to me to be exceedingly effective during a certain part of the hatch, when they're actually have broken through the surface tension of the water and they're actually flying away. So that's it was a pretty big breakthrough for me.
You just tie that with 6X lead.
I just make my knot with 6X.
You just tie an overhand knot in.
Triple surgeon. So what I'll tie now is I'm going to tie a Tup's Indispensable Hackle Stacker Paraloop fly. I put a little drop of glue on here just for insurance purposes, so it won't come undone. okay, Dave?
Doing great.
This time I'll just make a pink Cahill since I have the stuff. Or a Hendrickson, whatever you want to call it. This is just super fine dubbing. I don't know, pink super fine, pink Cahill super fine, something like that. Put just a slightly more on there. Now here's a little gallows tool I made for making paraloop flies for hackle stackers that slides, and it's on a rubber snubber, and it has a lot of flex to it, so I'm not getting enough tension when I wind my hackle around. So I wanted a shorter distance, so I made this gizmo. So I'm going to make 2 loops on this, and then I'm going to go around the base twice, and this will be what I'm wrapping my hackle around. This hackle might be slightly too small, but this will give you the idea. I viewed a lot of videos on people making paraloop flies, hackle stackers, whatever you want to call them. Some use no gallows, some just use their fingers. Some wrap they finish their hackle around like this. I just made this tool because when I tie it off, I want my hackle out of the way. So I can wrap this up. And I want to make sure I wrap it far enough up the thread that when I pull it over, it's going to completely envelop my thorax. I used to use 6X for this, but I found that thread doubled over on my loop like this works really well. So what I've done is I've devised another tool here, and then I'll take this out of the vise, move this out of the way, take this, and with this gizmo I just throw it over here. So now my hackle's out of my way. So then I use a little darker dubbing for the thorax because most mayflies have a little darker thorax than their abdomen. So I'm going to take this, I'm just going to twist this, then I'm going to form a loop. I'm going to put it like this, tie it off, and I'm going to hold this tension, and I'm going to draw this baby right over the thorax. And then I bring back the thread and tie it off so it doesn't come apart. I needed a bigger hackle in the portion. Let me tie another one. I'll just tie a standard dun without a trailing shuck. And for demonstration purposes, I'll get a bigger hackle. That was just a little bit too small. So for tails for these flies, I normally use wood duck. Flank. So I'll just take a wood duck flank feather, preen the fibers back, and cut this tip out. And then I can slice these off like bologna and make additional tails. Actually, I'm going to get my rib for pinks. This is a YLI silk thread. You can't buy, you have to buy it online through a sewing shop. That color happens to be pinky brown, and it happens to work really well. It just seems to be a good color for pinks. So I'm going to tie this on the bottom, because when I make the rib, when I rib the fly, I can put it underneath the tail and elevate it. So I'll bring this under, and I'll just draw this tight, and I'll elevate my tail and rib it. It's a little better than the first one.
They work better than just a parachute fly? Or they all the same?
That's a good question.
Depends on the fish.
I don't know. I guided on the Snake in below Palisades for 30 years, and the pink hackle stacker came on the scene, and it seemed to be a real popular fly. And I really didn't even know how to do it. I mean, I never heard of such a thing, didn't know how to do it. Started investigating and found out how to do it. And to be honest with you, I don't know that it is more effective.
Just catches fish.
But I think it's a really cool process. I mean, I think whoever invented this had a lot of good thought. What I like to do, though, is if I'm making divided wing flies, is to divide the wings and then pull a paraloop through the wings. So it's a different look than a parachute, and they're really pretty slick. See, so this is these are called Wally wings. A guy named I'm not sure, he might be from Scandinavia, Wally Lutz. And he created this method to where you're using one single mallard feather. It's pretty cool. Has anybody ever seen this? I'll start off with this is just a wood duck flank feather. And you preen these back like so. And then you fold this over the opposite way. And then you'll tie that on top.
Turn that fly around so we can see it.
Okay. I really wish I would have thought of this one. This is so trick.
Makes a great little black midge.
So you take one of these fibers, the one closest to the, okay, so on this fiber right here, normally you should soak them, so hopefully this will work. I just pull this, and there's a wing. got out of control. I think that is so cool. I mean, when I saw that video, I'm going, no way.
You put you tie your tackle stacker in now?
No.
Or you do that first?
Let's see if I can do one, okay?
But you put the normal.
No. Well, you want to do your wing first. And the reason you want to do your wing first is because if you have your tail and all that other stuff done and it doesn't pull apart correctly and your wing doesn't work, then you're kind of out of luck. So I'll just make another tail here. If you use mallard flank for these wings, you can make really, really good calibatus spinners. I think they're the best looking calibatus spinner I've ever seen. I mean, these wings look like wings. You know, you see no hackle flies with just mallard quill. They're cool and they look good, but they don't look like this.
Classroom 200D, we have dry fly innovations, advanced fly dry fly fishing with Nate Brumley. These classes are free. The classrooms are right out the hallway. Please go and take advantage. At 1 o'clock in the Adventure Theater, we have Eagle Lodge, fly fishing for salmon and trout on Prince Rail Island with Ken Rudd. And also next, in the fly tying theater, we have Cheats on fly fish food at 1:15.
See, I don't know how you could accomplish those wings with a parachute. I guess, I don't know. So that was something I played with.
That's pretty neat fly. Pretty neat fly.
And here are a bunch of them. I mean, there are a bunch of those Wally wings in there. Thanks for coming.